everyone, and welcome to DevFest 2025 Virtual Edition with GDG Surrey. We are so excited to have you join us today. DevFest is all about learning, building, and connecting as part of a global developer community. Now, DevFest is one of the flagship programs of Google Developer Groups, and we host it yearly, not necessarily virtual, but if you're interested in person, you can always go to Google Developer Group platform. You can find a DevFest near you in person, and you can be part of a bigger community there too. Now, today's agenda is simple. We will just kickstart with our GDG community introduction, and then we dive into the session. Then there are some giveaways that we would love for you to learn about later after the session, and then we would also be sharing our communication channels with you. Okay, so this is the last year's DevFest in-person team. Now we are volunteer team, and thanks to this lower mainland Vancouver, Surrey, Burnaby communities, volunteers have been coming together to bring these conferences to life. And it's not just DevFest. There are Google I/O Extended, there's Build with AI, and multiple different types of conferences and meetups that we do. We started 2 years back and 3 years back, and it's been huge success. We are not just celebrating in Surrey in person. We do host all sort of virtual events too. We have done research writing paper club. We have done research reading paper club, and one of our papers did even published. We have run the workshops supported by Google credits. So yes, you as a developer, you as a student or researcher, you get your hands on. And then there is Cloud Skill Boost, where you actually get sort of webinars. They are the learning pathways where you can go and understand the concepts, and they are you can filter them by beginner, intermediate, and advanced level too. So, some of the members you'll see in these coming virtual series from GDG team, and then it's expanding. So, if you are in Vancouver, Surrey, Burnaby, yeah, through our events in person, you can also meet us, and we can talk about more projects and work with you. So this has been our in-person small meetups. This is how they have been looking like. These are monthly meetups that we do, and we are trying to keep them very cozy, so that you're comfortable sharing your project. And when it's the smaller groups, sometimes good things happen out of smaller groups, because they're quite close-knit, and they can. I think the collaboration in small groups is easier than bigger groups. So we come together, we talk about our projects. Sometimes we create groups offline, and we start to work. If not, we at least get the feedback, and that matters a lot. You have this blind side about your product always, right? And it's a great idea to get feedback from someone, especially from these community members, which come with diverse backgrounds. And don't underestimate anybody's tech stack and resource sharing ability. So that goes win-win for everybody. So we have been doing these conferences. Everybody is volunteer, and if you would want to join, you just tell us, and you're part of it. You can bring in your own creative ideas about initiatives, about say meetups or workshops that you would want to host, or you would like this community host, and we would welcome that too. Okay, so now without any delays, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Victor, co-founder and CTO at Mamoru Labs. Victor is a developer, lecturer, and entrepreneur. He co-founded and ran startups like Mamoru Labs, which provided video collaboration applications to universities and companies in over 71 countries. His passions include HTML5 AI, video games, and client-side applications. He's also organized tech events like Hack for Good Spain, and he was just telling about hosting the hackathons, an HTML5 party, making text accessible for both kids and adults. He's also recognized by Google as a developer expert in web technologies. Now, Victor will guide us through how AI is now built directly into your browsers. So please join me in welcoming Victor. And I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, and thank you everyone for coming and taking a piece of your week and a piece of your afternoon to spend some time together. As Pretty very well put, my name is Victor Sanchez. I'm way longer, for way longer, I look, much younger than I actually am, but I'm quite old on that piece. So I've been working in tech for 20 years plus now. First I started obviously coding my own applications in Java, and then I discovered C, Python later, but I ended up falling in love with web technologies. And the reasons I did fall in love with web technologies, and today we are using a piece of the web, right? We are all connected through our browsers into this WebRTC powered application, which is one of my companies that Pretty mentioned, where I dedicated many, many years. But it is, for me, kind of, if you remember Java at the very beginning, when Java was launched, right? It was this dream of code one, compile, and then run everywhere, right? Thanks to that Java runtime environment. And the reality is that the web has become what Java never did. And it's this ability to run a variety of applications, a variety of many different type of APIs and use cases directly with the software, right? Or with the software that all of us have installed in our computers. And today we're going to be talking about one of the properties, right, that modern browsers have incredibly enough add to the experience. So what I'm going to do is, again, I do have a presentation and I do have, like 40 slides and a bunch of different demos that I want to share with you. But especially when it's online, especially when there is a relatively small event, right, 15, 20 people, I think conversations are always much more interesting. So I would be super happy that you interrupt me, you ask me questions, we derail the presentation for good reasons. I'm always up to it, even for bad ones probably, but I'm always up to it. So feel free to ask questions on the chat. I will try to pay attention, to raise your hand, to ask questions. And again, I think it's always super, super welcome. With this said, I'm going to start very quickly sharing my screen and my tab over here. Hopefully you all can see me and can see the slides, which I believe you can. So let's talk a little bit about what are we going to be covering today in this DevFest. First of all, we're going to be talking about AI local models, and I believe all of us have that kind of intrigue, right, on running these incredible digital brains directly on our laptops, directly on our computers. But it is interesting to understand why, right? And why are we trying to do this? What is interesting about running these models in devices that are, by all means, less capable, less powerful than these kind of massive data centers that we see in the news every single day? So obviously, that's one. The other one is we're going to be talking about a very specific set of local models that are the ones that come from the Gemini Nano family and that has kind of been integrated inside Chrome through this built-in set of APIs. But do not be deceived by this, because you will realize that there are way more than Gemini Nano in your browser, and I will try to cover these kind of different 7 APIs. And then we will go through a portal, and I will give you the link of this website that I have developed for this event, for you to play with these 7 models, these 7 APIs that can kind of give you a sense of what the browser can do already today. Despite there are some difficulties, there are some flags that you need to activate because this is really, really new. But that is one of the points of the fest, right? Of telling you things or kind of navigating together technologies that are not even kind of fully out yet, right? But incoming. And this is a clear example. There are some APIs that we will see today that are already shipped in Chrome, and some of them that are behind flags and are kind of incoming in the next few weeks and months. So the idea of this presentation was to be very on top of that, so you, together with me, can be part of this first wave of Web Chrome application that use these local models and AIs. So let's talk about AI and why, when we think about AI, we kind of think of one of these probably big 5 or big 7, depending on who you count. But the reality is that current language models, right, these LLMs, are incredibly huge. I don't know if you have been kind of tracking from the very first versions of ChatGPT 2 until the modern ChatGPT 5 that was relatively just released, right? And every version of Gemini, Grok, DeepSeek, Claude, all of them went from, we have a couple of 100 million parameters. Now we are doing billions, right? And now we are getting to the trillions of parameters. That is, for the human mind especially, right? This exponential growth, it's really hard to grasp for a human. But it is not as hard to grasp when you see on TV these massive construction sites that are the size of cities just to put data centers together. It's almost like every single day we are seeing a different piece of news where NVIDIA and Grok, NVIDIA and Google, NVIDIA and ChatGPT, all of them are building the next largest data center in their city, in their country, because it is required to run these massive models at a scale. And the reality is that it's been quite impressive, right? We have been able to kind of tap into this new universe of these digital brains, which, by the way, they are heavily sponsored, right? You are paying anywhere from $10 to $20 a month for some of these services. The reality, though, is that if you are a heavy user of any of these services, right now, Silicon Valley VC money is paying for the party, in the sense that you are not paying what you are consuming. The type of CPUs that are being used, the type of connection, the networking capabilities of these data centers are incredibly expensive, right? And the reality is that right now we are all being sponsored to kind of get hooked to these technologies, but the reality is that $20 don't cover a heavy user of ChatGPT, a heavy user of Gemini, a heavy user of Grok. And if you have used cloud services before, and probably, given some of your jobs that you shared before and your experience, you have used cloud resources, you know how expensive it can be to have a cloud GPU and enough RAM and CPU to run these models in memory. Not to mention, right, the memory requirements to store these conversations, because obviously as context windows grow bigger, and I'm going to start using some AI concepts in here, but I'm sure stop me at some point if I go too advanced or I am too obvious, right? But I'm going to try to cover this for everyone, even though I assume that some of you or most of you have already touched some of these models. So one of the things that I mentioned, right, is this context model, this ability for the browser to not consider only the last question, the last prompt that we are giving them, but much larger pieces of text, much larger prompts, system prompts, and also user prompts, history chat that we have interacting. And basically, a big thing of these models kind of becoming apparently smarter is the fact that this window is growing. But this is also a massive data storage requirement, not only for training, but also for inference, right? Which is kind of what happens whenever we are interacting with the models. We expect the weights on one side and the results on the other, right? We call that inference. So when we are doing these inferences, we expect a massive set of hardware that right now, again, we are heavily sponsored to use in these massive data centers. So the reality is that when you try to think of the literally hundreds of gigabytes of memory that are required, these really powerful GPUs that literally could not run on your laptop, right? Could not run on your phone. What is the idea behind this kind of almost insane concept of taking these digital brains, try to make them as small as humanly possible, try to reduce their memory footprint as much as humanly possible, and then run them on our local devices? And we can talk about that and kind of go through that reasoning for a second together. Because the reality today is that, yes, right now we have AI everywhere, but maybe not for everyone, right? And the reality is, you think, what do you mean not for everyone? Anyone can connect to the internet, anyone can pay for ChatGPT. And maybe it's right, but the reality is that if you want to have a conversation with Gemini, and I don't know if you guys have tried it, but it is one of my favorite AI interactions at the moment, is sharing my screen. I'm learning Godot, which is an open source game engine, and I'm making an indie game right now. So I share my screen with Gemini in real time, and I ask the voice and that video, right, through that multi-modal input. I am asking them questions to these models, and they are processing in real time my video and my audio. Of course, this is extremely heavy, and it requires not only that I have that capability, not only that I have that connectivity. But in order to work well, I require that internet connection that allows for this to happen. And then very recently, I was a beta tester of Google Glass when they came out. Very recently, I acquired the Meta Display Ray-Ban, right? The very new ones that also have that ability to connect. And the reality is that because I live in a first world country and I have 5G, and this is New York, and there are 5G antennas absolutely everywhere, I have that capability to have good interactions with AI that do not come from my local hardware, right? They come from the fact that I have a privileged connectivity due to my geography and due to my Google 5 data plan. But the reality is that if you think on someone that is worried about their data privacy, I was talking the other day on a podcast with a friend of mine that works for IBM, and he does not have access to many of these tools while he's working for obvious reasons, and is that IBM Quantum doesn't want to share the data of their repositories with these models that are going to use that data then to retrain these intelligences, right? So they are other reasons why you don't want to connect to these very large data models. So the reality is that a few reasons appear for you to be able or to have that desire to run these local LLMs directly in your devices. And the truth is that it requires a certain level of engineering, right? I don't know, probably the first thing that you tried, if you have tried to run your own local models, was Llama CPP. Llama CPP is essentially an inference engine, right, that allows you to run quantized models, which are essentially reduced models or reduced memory footprint models that are kind of more friendly with your current configuration. Some models can run in 8 gigabytes of RAM, some in 16, some in 32. So still, they require relatively powerful machines. But now you see really small, very capable models that can run with relatively light CPUs and 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is quite impressive. But for those, all of them are quantized, right? All of them are reduced on that memory footprint, and it requires a little bit of work to make them happen. Not to mention that, of course, if you have a GPU on the other side of this, and you probably have, right, you can infer with your CPU, but the reality is that it's very slow, so you will get very few tokens out of these models. So you probably have that GPU. So not only you have to go to the Llama CPP repository, you have to clone it, you have to run it, you have to have your drivers of your GPU properly installed. And the reality is, I remember, right, setting up this when Llama CPP came out. Now it's been almost 2 years probably that this project has been on. I will check later just out of curiosity. But it's been quite a bit that these kind of intentions have been out there, and models have been getting better at reducing themselves for these very specific use cases. So right now we have kind of this dual race for the largest, but also for the smallest, most efficient models. Yes, Llama CPP was kind of the first inference that kind of became popular, but it was not the only one. In fact, around Llama CPP, very quickly you had things like LM Studio, which is my favorite. I use it quite a bit. And if you want to get started running local models and you don't want to use the browser, which is what I'm going to teach you today, you want to try different things, you can definitely try LM Studio. And another one that I think is quite interesting is Olama, which is another wrapper, essentially, of Llama CPP. What I really like about these two kind of desktop softwares, right, that allow you to run models directly into your computer, in this case, is that also they do a little bit of a curation job. So they have the ability to list a bunch of models. You can find them, you can download them, you can delete them, you can see if there are new versions, and some of them even come with recommendations on setting the temperature, setting the right kind of environment, if you want, and parameters for these models to run in the best possible way, right, directly into your devices. But the reality is that even today, some of these programs require a little bit of technical ability. And yes, I'm sure all of you will set it up in a few minutes or in a few hours. If you are, running a weird NVIDIA driver in Linux or something like that, it may take you longer and it may take you a little bit of headaches. And maybe you have to consult a Stack Overflow or an AI in order to set it up. But everyone in this call will be able to do it. However, if I want to tell my dad, right, look, you can run this in your laptop, I don't see my dad managing one of these applications, right, and getting there. However, I do see my dad clicking on a link and starting interacting with a model that comes in there. And that's what he does, right? He uses Gemini on his phone, he uses ChatGPT on his computer. But obviously, he's sharing everything that he types, everything that he says to these models with these companies. And of course, it requires an internet connection as he is going through that. And not to mention that, especially when I'm from in Spain, you are going to have a bunch of things. I'm going to mention Quen, Dino. I'm reading the chat at the same time. I'm going to mention Quen shortly, because yeah, definitely one of my models that I'm keeping an eye on top, because I believe it's going to be quite powerful. And you're going to see the logo here for Quen in a second, in 1 or 2 slides. So if you look at the issues, right, right now we have this explosion of local LLM systems. I'm going to list a bunch in a moment here, and I recommend that you, after this talk, take a week of your time, because it's going to take you a week to try them all. There are quite a bit of them. And again, they have complex setups, right? You need to know about models, about weights. You need to know about quantization. You need to know about the hardware requirements of some of these. And still, you will require a relatively powerful laptop and CPU with powerful RAM as well that comes in there. So there are quite a bit, right, of setup that need to happen. And there is another aspect, and not only is about securing your own data that you are sharing, but it's the fact that it is quite scary to download models of unsourced trusted, right? These are multi-gigabyte, right, from 4 to 6 to hundreds of gigabytes that you are downloading from the internet. And some of these models, depending on what type of model you download, and it was very typical with a Stable Diffusion, which is a generative model for images, where unless you download it in a format that is called safe tensors, these weights actually have execution capabilities. So you could very easily download a Trojan horse or God knows where, because you are downloading some of these models. So having a trusted source, and obviously Hugging Face has done a lot for the ecosystem on providing secure places on downloading these models, but still be very careful on when do you source these models, because some of these models, they are not only weights, they have execution capabilities. And whenever you are running or inferring on those models, you could actually be downloading something quite dangerous. Not to mention that is true for every file on the internet, right? But these files are going to be executing code that comes with them. So they can become kind of a vector of attack for your local system very, very easily. And we have seen already in the field some of successful attacks that have done this. So this is my cheesy title number 1, right? And is, in my opinion, the next big news in AI will be really small. And for me, right, I am less excited today with the latest GPT-5 or the latest Claude 2.5 or what Gemini 3 is going to bring. And do not get me wrong, I am excited. I am following those news. But for me, the next big news are going to be really, really small. And I've been very interested in Gemma. I've been very interested in Gemini Nano. I've been very interested in Quen. I've been very interested in Phi. I've been very interested in these small models, Falcon, right, that are remarkably capable. And it kind of breaks your mind a little on how much human knowledge you can put in 4 gigabytes, 6 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes of weights compressed. And suddenly that model speaks several languages. That model understands audio, understands video, and is running in your potato computer. And that's remarkable, right? And that's remarkable for several reasons. One of them is that it reduces the latency. It reduces the cost to essentially 0. And it makes this completely sandbox, right? Suddenly you are interacting with these models without the fear of being a spy, without the fear of your conversations ever leaking out. So yeah, I'm a firm believer that the most exciting news of AI are going to be these small, very light local models more than these kind of large ones. And again, I'm following both, but I have a kind of I don't know, a weakness for these small models, if you like. So some of these models that I want you to try after this, and today we're going to be trying Gemini Nano and a few experts that come with Chrome, but Gemma 3N. Gemma 3N is kind of Gemini's little sister on that piece, and especially Gemma 3NB is a multi-model local one. That is the one that I run the most locally, and I run a bunch of different agents with NA10, with Gemini CLI. I've been running quite a few agents, and this is the first one that behaves in an agentic manner locally in my computer, with something that I am proud of, right? And I'm happy to interact with. That is not, sharing all my data with one of those companies. Another one, this is a European company, actually. I believe the founders are French, and they ended up moving to the US due to the legislation there. But Mistral 7 It's quite amazing. It's relatively small as well and can be easily run. I don't know, I have a MacBook with an M2 and 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I can run every single one of these models on my laptop. Microsoft that, for so many years was known for not being very developer friendly, I have to say, now it's finally kind of getting better at that. It's open sourcing a lot of models, and the 5.3 Mini is a very interesting family. Dino, right? You were asking about this. I told you that the moment was coming. Qwen 3, right? But Qwen 2 was absolutely incredible. The capabilities were quite impressive. And for the longest time, Qwen 2.5 was my favorite local model to run. And it was the first kind of local agentic experiments that I run. It was kind of remarkable. Right now, in my opinion, Gemma 3ND has gone a little bit further than what Qwen 3 has been able to do, but definitely another model to follow and to be very wary of. I think they're doing great progress, and some of these models outperform all of Facebook, outperform Falcon, they're outperforming Tiny Llama. They are doing quite well. But right now, for me, the king, right, as I mentioned, or the queen in this case, is Gemma 3MB. I have not seen anything better locally yet. On that part. But the good thing of that is that don't quote me on this, don't clip this video and don't post it anywhere, because I'm going to be wrong in 3 days, because there is a model out every single day. So I'm sure I'm going to be wrong very soon. And that's part of what makes it exciting to kind of follow this field. Obviously, you have Falcon 3, you have Llama, all the family from Meta AI. Llama, in the defense of Facebook, right? And right now, I believe Meta AI and Llama is kind of a little bit behind of both ChatGPT and Gemini. But I have to defend Meta in here. And they were the very first ones that downloaded really capable, really powerful models and open source them, kind of forcing everyone else to start doing the same, because they realized that there was a massive use case for local models. And if Gemini, if ChatGPT, if other companies weren't releasing theirs, they realized that Meta was going to take that open source market and that local market, and they didn't want it for that to happen. But kudos to Meta. I have some friends working there. I believe it was really brave to release Llama the way they did it, especially when they were competing with ChatGPT 3 and 4, and there were Llama local models that were performing really well on some of those scenarios. I think they were really brave. So yeah, kudos to Meta on this one. There are more. GPT OSS, Tiny Llama, a small LLM. There are plenty of them. I recommend that you play around. But if you haven't tried, and it's not because I'm a Google developer expert and because this is a Google developer group event, you really have to try Gemma 3NB. I'm shocked by it. With AI, I have like 50-50. 50% of the time, I am impressed on how bad some of these models are and how stupid they are sometimes. But 50% of the time, I feel like I'm speaking with an alien, right? Like it's like, oh my God, this is absolutely out of this world, what these models can do. But it always happened to me with online really large models. Gemma 3MB is the first time that I was running a local model and I was impressed, right? I was kind of almost felt small. My very tiny human brain felt really small on some of these conversations with Gemma 3MB. So yeah, I recommend the experience. I don't know if you're going to like it, but I recommend the experience to at least experience that a smallness sometimes of the human brain together with some of the things that we have been able to build, right? So browsers are the great equalizer, and this is what I was mentioning before, right? Browsers have one thing that Java never managed to do, and is tell me one computer, tell me one device, tell me one phone, one iPad, one tablet that doesn't have a browser, right? Easy access, an extremely large user base. Probably they are the most popular software ever, right? Other than your operative system. And they are obviously very well integrated in consumer devices and in the daily life of your target users, but also many kiosks that you see from your parking to your local McDonald's, they are using computers, that they are running browsers, that they have the applications right on top on having that. So there is also this angle, right, of integrated systems that thanks to that browser can very easily run some models and can be the perfect front end for AI use cases and AI models like the ones that we're going to be speaking today. And to be completely honest, this playbook already worked once. I don't know if you all remember TensorFlow.js. As I said before, I'm old, but TensorFlow.js was exactly this, right? You have this massive machine learning wave of applications, kind of making everyone change their mind about what machine learning will be able to do, what AI will be able to do. And for a little while, running TensorFlow directly on your computer, once more, it required to have the right drivers and a lot of space and a powerful CPU. And maybe it only works with some GPUs and not all. And if you have AMD and not NVIDIA, you cannot run them. It was painful to run these machine learning algorithms and this machine learning training directly on your devices. And Google very smartly released TensorFlow.js, which was kind of a light version of TensorFlow, but that had one massive magical difference, and is that it was able to run directly on your browser. And suddenly, everyone was able to get to these models, train some of these algorithms, watch a canvas in HTML5 moving neurons around and see the weights inside those neural networks. And suddenly the browser became this great equalizer for people that didn't have the technical skills to access the more complex features, installation, and requirements of TensorFlow. Suddenly, you just need to visit the website, and now you're interacting with, yes, a lighter version of TensorFlow. But there were millions of people, right, that got access to some of these technologies because of the browser. So because this plan has already worked before, let's do the same, right? Let's take these models that run well locally, but are still hard to manage, and let's make them run directly in your browser. And let's give the users of these models 4 things. Let's give them extra privacy. Let's give them faster interaction that is independent from their internet connection and even their ability to connect to the network at all, because they are offline as well. And let's give them better user experiences that come from that combination of privacy, speed, and offline capabilities. Because suddenly you can have interactions that run in your device that have different experiences as well. Because running locally on your device has advantages. One of them, MPC servers, for instance, right? You can run other stuff in your computer that maybe, I don't know about you, but I will never give root access or terminal access to any of these online models. But if I have a control agent that I'm running myself that I can stop at any time, I have an MCP server running with my local agent doing things for me right now in this computer, right? So I believe that UX-wise, you can as well offer plenty of different things. And MCP models, is a topic for another talk probably, but we can come maybe, next year, or I don't know, how you send model, right? Pretty maybe the next time that we meet, I could tell you a little bit about MCP servers that also come with Chrome, which is quite a bit amazing, and I've been using quite a bit. So let's Chrome heavy lifting for us. Basically, you're going to have these web applications and a number of web APIs that I'm going to go through in this time, and you're going to be able to run these built-in models. And Chrome will take care of the hard part, which is I am already installed. I am already have access to your CPU, your GPU, your NPU, if you have one. And I'm going to run them for you. And I'm going to optimize those installation and those parameters to run in your hardware as best as I can. And yes, there are flags and there are hardware requirements that come with this. But Chrome is going to do their very best through the configuration that Google engineers have put a lot of work on to run these models in the most efficient possible way. And for you as a developer, you are only going to care about some JavaScript APIs, very basic APIs that come into your browser. And the reason, don't worry, I know that we already have consumed quite a bit of our time. The reality, though, is that the APIs are very, very simple. The philosophy of it is what I wanted to talk to you about. But now you will go through the APIs, you will see the examples, and you will see that getting this to work is so easy because it's just a web API and it's so easy to do. So Chrome is going to run these models, but which models is Chrome running? So basically, Chrome has developed a family of 6 experts and then Gemini Nano, right, with the prompt API. So we're going to have language detection. We're going to have the translation, which actually translation is kind of a lie because it looks like one model in this slide, and it's not true. Actually, for each pair of languages, there is one very small expert model, 2 to 4 megabytes. That's insane. And it is 2 to 4 megabytes. So you want to do English to Japanese. So you download 3 megs or 4 megs of weights, and now you have a small expert that knows how to do English to Japanese or Spanish to Japanese or whatever it is. But they have one for each pair of languages that you are running. So in fact, translator is actually a large family of a small experts on doing those translations, which by the way is really important to do language detection and translator at the same time, because you need to have the right expert to do the translation. So you first want to run the very light the language detection, download the right model or see if you have the right model on the translation, and then run. You have summarizers. Imagine that you are reading a very long, very boring article, and we are all in a rush. You want a quick summary of that article. You can run it directly. You are on the train behind, many meters of concrete. It doesn't matter because this works offline directly here. You are writing a review, a blog post, a quick email. It doesn't matter. It can help you write to one of these experts. Rewriter, you wrote something, but it was rushed. Maybe you are typing in a language that is not yours. So you want to make sure that this is us, or maybe you went a little bit informal and you want to go a little bit more formal, or it's too formal, let's do it a little bit more casual. You can actually have the rewriter expert transform that text to better fit a new context. And one of my favorites, I'm sure that all of you have heard about Grammarly at some point. I use it a lot for many years, right? Because again, I'm from Spain originally. English is not my first language. I speak a bunch of different languages. And if you are like me, the more languages I know, the worse I speak all of them. So having proofreading for any language is always super useful. And now I don't need to pay for Grammarly. I don't need to share my data, my conversation, my emails, my doctor appointments when I'm writing to my doctor. Essentially, Grammarly, I was sharing everything that I was typing, right? Now, thanks to Proofreader Expert, I can have my own extension that runs locally in my browser with this very small expert model and is doing proofreading for me in a very capable way. So Chrome can take, and it's giving you these 6 experts, these 6 families of experts, or you can decide to go for the whole brain, right? I want Prompt API, and Prompt API is a version of Gemini Nano that runs on your browser, and depending on your browser capabilities, it's going to download a model or another. It's going to have different configuration, but basically it's going to give you ChatGPT-like features, right, as you go on this. Dino was asking as well, when you say offline, you mean offline from the internet? Yes, I mean offline from the internet, right? These models can run fully disconnected from the internet, and we'll comment that as well. Terence as well, I'm going to put it here. What is the first step that I should take if I want to get into machine learning, assuming that I'm a third? Okay, that one is it's really good for afterwards. I'm going to take Terence right after in the Q&A. But there is always advice for our students I will always want to spend time on, and I will do so at the end of this presentation. All right, so API statuses. This is important. If you have Chrome 138, sorry, translator, language detection, and summarizer, they are already shipped. No flags, nothing strange. Writer, rewriter, prompt API, and proofreader. Prompt API is already here if you are using it from an extension. Everything else, it will require some flags and or origin trials to be registered on Google. Register for these origin trials is very easy. The flags are very easy as well, but be aware that some requirements are done, and I'm going to kind of go through those requirements very quickly. And then you do need, right, some things that are recommendable. Obviously, you need the right version, and then this works right now on Windows 10 and 11. On macOS 13 onwards, it works on Linux, almost any Linux, and it works on Chrome OS, right, on the Chromebooks, on Chromebook Plus. And you are going to need some space, right, for these models. Some models are just a few megabytes, but if you want to go for the big fish, right, you're going to need 22 gigabytes for that Gemini Nano model that is downloading. So you do need, right, data space. And right now, Chrome is able to run all of these experts and the Gemini Nano in 4 gigabytes of VRAM, which is remarkable. I'm sorry, but it's so impressive on that piece. And of course, they tell you unmetered network, right? They don't want to be responsible for you spending an arm and a leg downloading these models. So yes, be careful, right, that you have a flat fee for your internet when you are downloading this. Activate these 4 flags before you go later to the website that I'm going to share with you. Go to Chrome flags and do writer API for Gemini Nano, rewriter API for Gemini Nano, proofreader, and prompt. And when you look from prompt API for Gemini Nano, you will realize that actually there is 2 different flags for this, one for text and one for multimodal, which is really cool because it allows you to upload audio and video. So, audio and screenshots. So make sure that you activate both flags or both options inside the flag when you are activating prompt API for Gemini Nano. All right, so let's go to how do I do this? There is these 7 things, right? Language detector, translator, summarizer, writer, rewriter, proofreader, and language model in this small snippet of code. You have all of them. And the only thing that you're going to look is you're going to check that the navigator, the window, has window.writer, the window.language detector, translator, summarizer, writer, rewriter, proofreader, and language model. So feature detection is always the first step. Make sure that you are accepting those. If you cannot see them, you are either in the wrong version or you don't have the right flags activated. This is only feature detection. It doesn't check at all yet if you have downloaded or not the models, which is, of course, a step number 2. A step number 2 is model availability. You want to ensure that the model is there, ready to use. And you do that, this is a promise, so you're going to use await first, and you're going to go for whatever one of those 7 names, one of those 7 names of the APIs, and you're going to do dot availability. And these always return one of 2 strings, either available or downloadable. If it returns nothing, right, or undefined, you have another problem, and is that language the detector is there, but it's not downloadable at the time. It is strange, but it can happen. Could be version related. Obviously, some of these APIs are experimental, so they will break from time to time when you are playing with them, but be aware of this. But basically, you will get available or downloadable. If you get downloadable, you are, of course, on the right track. So what you're going to do is you're going to play with that one. So this is just an example on this piece. Because whatever you do, oh no, actually this is very important. Sorry, I forgot about my own slide here. Translator is the only one that works differently because of what I told you before. In translator, you need to check if you have the right translator. So if you need a Spanish to English, you need to check source language and target language. So you send them this dictionary of source language, target language, because it may be that you have some experts, but not others. So whenever you check availability for the translator, make sure that you know the source and the target in order to have that ability. And now, yes, the model download. So basically for this, we're going to, and once more, right, this is just the web. So what do? You create a rewriter and you add an event listener, the ones that you will add for any download progress. And you're going to be able to have just a callback, right, on your download progress, and you're going to see the percentage go up as this happens. But it is really easy to do. And these are patterns that if you are a web developer, you have already dealt with this. And if not, it's 3 freaking lines, right? Very, very easy to get started with these things. So what can these APIs actually do? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go back and forth a little bit. I'm going to stop sharing my slides for a second, and I'm going to go now to my full screen here. Interrupt me with audio because I'm not going to be looking at you for a few minutes now. I'm going to go to my other screen. So yeah, feel free to tell me with audio if something is wrong or you cannot see me when I'm doing this, because I'm going to have to go to another screen. But yes, so here we're going to go to the feature detection. If you can confirm, Pretty, it's everything all right? You can see when I'm there?
Yep, we can see.
Fantastic. Good. So when we are here, right, we're going to go to the feature detection, as I mentioned, the model availability. Oops, sorry about that. I'll reload in a second here. There we go. You can see it's live because something is going to happen no matter how well prepared you are. Something is always going to happen on these things. All right. So we are here on the feature detection, as I mentioned before, and we're going to start getting a look at what these APIs can actually do. So detect a language without the standard models. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be jumping back and forth from this URL that I have prepared for you. And I'm going to share at the end so you can play around with it as well. But basically, we're going to reload this example. Open your console because I have here a lot of goodies. I have prepared this demo very carefully together with an AI, of course, and I have a ton of logs that will be super useful for you. One of the things that I do is I am checking availability for each one of them. This is Chrome Canary 140 something. So I have obviously everything, and I have already done through the flags that I was mentioning before. However, I'm going to show the flags to you very quickly. And if you go to the prompt ones, right? This is what I was mentioning before, for instance, prompt API for Gemini Nano and prompt API for Gemini Nano with multimodal input. Make sure that you enable it and you have enabled multilingual, which I use, again, because I'm a Spanish as well, right? So I want to have them all in here. But pay attention to the console, because I have a lot of logs for you that kind of tell you everything that is happening inside. So there is a little bit of marketing over here, because I wanted, for anyone that comes in here and have not seen this presentation, I wanted them to know what is this, right? But basically, you're gonna know, you're gonna go to this section where there is these 7 boxes. They have the kind of characteristics of these models, and you have the ability to load them. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna essentially do what I have done on that slide for the translator, for the language detection, and I'm gonna do it for each one of them. So we're gonna load all of these. I'm gonna show you in a second how that works. And now we were talking about this kind of language detection. Let's see how it works inside. We're gonna have a text, and once more, right? The reason why I'm confident with 5 minutes on the clock left is because the reality is that the APIs couldn't be easier. 3 lines of code. Some user detector.detect, some user text, and now I'm gonna get an array of results, and I'm gonna take a look at what those results are. And it's as simple as it sounds. So if you go to the demo section of my example portal, you will see that there is a demo for each one of the 7 APIs. I have implemented every single feature of each one of them, so you don't have to, and you can get a try to them. So I'm going to click on here on random, and every time that I click random, it's going to give me a different language. So unless random, of course, repeats itself, but I'm going to click on detect language, and look at this. Instantly, right? I get this response from the API, language, code, and confidence. And this is obviously really, really important, right? It's how confident this is, and we are ordering based on this. So if I go to English, the tech language, 100%. Hola, ¿cómo estás hoy? Spanish, 99.7. That's a little, and again, obviously, this will run a slightly different every time. So I'm always scared when I do these demos, right? For obvious reasons on this piece, because it can change, but you will see that it's remarkably accurate, right? As you go through the examples that I have prepared, it is quite accurate as you go. So this is the detection, sorry. There is 2 megabytes of a model behind this. And this is really important because it will empower the second API, which is the translator. It is an incredible power translation tool. I haven't found many mistakes in the languages I know. As I mentioned before, you need 1 model per language pair, and it works best in combination with the language detector because of that fact. And it's gonna give you this one-shot translation either on streaming, right, token by token, or with the full word. How do you do it? Couldn't be easier. Translator.create, source language and target language. You're gonna do translator translate, or if you want to do the streaming, you're gonna translate streaming, and you're gonna consume chunks out of the stream object in a synchronous or an asynchronous way, which is kind of really cool to do. What this can do is quite crazy. But I can take, hello, how are you today? Translate to Spanish. Hola, ¿cómo estás hoy? Let's do what is the nearest restaurant, English to French. Oh, se trouve le restaurant Le Place Praché. Sorry, my French is horrible. I will butcher it. German, right? I'm going to do Italian. And look at what happened right here. You see, I didn't have that model downloaded, so it downloaded it now live as we were doing this. If I do, I never use Chinese, for instance, right? So I want to do English to Chinese, right? I would like to order some coffee, and I click on translate. I don't have this model, you see? So it's downloading it for me because it's a model that I didn't have before. So make sure, right, that especially at the beginning, you're gonna be impressed with how small these models are. And you can very quickly come in here. But what matters here is if I go to the network tab, I'm gonna clean this very quickly. I'm gonna do another that I haven't probably used. Probably I don't think I have done Japanese here, but I'm gonna do something weird like Chinese to Japanese, right? So I'm gonna use this thing and I'm gonna just translate directly. I don't have this model probably, or did I have it? Yeah. So it downloaded it, right? And if you look at how quickly these models go out, they are so small, it's ridiculous. But the impressive thing is that if I come right here and I check offline, right now I have no network anymore, this will continue to work. And of course, it won't work if I don't have the right model, right? It will fail for me if I don't have the right model. But the language detection that we were testing before, and this translation, they are working fully offline, right? It's quite amazing. Translator, second model that we are going to learn. Let's go to the summarizer. And the summarizer is really fun. It has a bunch of different options from TLDR, teaser, key points, headlines that it can translate. So we're going to take, and I have generated a few AI examples. So this is an artificial intelligence article that I have in here. I'm going to go. These are a little bit slower, but because, of course, I'm sharing my screen as well. I'm using my GPU for other stuff as part of this. But we can come in here, and you will see, okay, AI is transforming industries by processing large data sets to identify machine learning algorithms. It's giving me even a markdown format with points, because I was asking for key points out of this presentation. Maybe I want a TLDR, and I want this to be a little bit shorter. Let's go. So I can very quickly kind of have this model give me very short descriptions, right, of what I need on that piece. If I want a headline, it is quite amazing what these models can do. Once more, fully offline, directly into your browser as part of this. And imagine, again, you are reading an article, right, and suddenly you want to know what the hell is happening in Korea at the time, and you want a translation, not only a translation, but a summary in your language. This is quite amazing, can improve your experience quite a bit without you having to go to any expensive models or anything like that. The writer API support users in creating kind of, just to see the summarizer, summarizer.summarize, and it accepts your long text, and then a dictionary with the properties, right, that I was covering in here, which are short, medium, long for TLDR, teaser, key points, or headlines. Very easy. The writer. In this case, you don't want to summarize something, you want to write it yourself. I'm a geek, D&D player, so I'm going to go to my writer example, and I'm going to create an RPG character. Create a detailed background story for Aldrich the Wise, the town wizard in my fantasy RPG. And as additional context, I'm going to tell you that the town is called Riverhelm. It is a peaceful trading post that recently discovered ancient ruins nearby. Aldrich is mysterious, over 200 years old, and no secrets about the ruins that he hasn't shared with anyone. Awesome. Right. So when we click on write, what we're going to get, hopefully, is a good summary on this. There we go. So now we have a writer, right? It's a full story of Aldrich. And I'm going to read just a little bit of this because this is quite impressive. Aldrich's origins are shrouded in the mist of time, even by Riverhelm's long history. He claims to be over 2 centuries old, a figure who witnessed the town's humble beginnings as a mere collection of shacks along the riverbank. Few truly believe him, blah, blah, blah. And you have a great background story for your RPG character, directly in your browser. If you want to do an email, write a blog post, I have prepared a few examples here, and you can write whatever you want in real time, and you can use these models in this demo environment that I have prepared for you. Rewriter, right? Similar in terms of how the API works. You have the options: share context, tone, formal, plain text, markdown, etc. Length, right? And once more, I have kind of given you in these slides everything you need. But to be honest, go always to the last version on the documentation, and there is the Google documentation is super complete. You have all the APIs, and you can take a look at the summarizer or the rewriter, which is the one that we're looking now on here. You can go very quickly, take a look at the different parameters and how they work, but you will see it's super, super easy. So the rewriter API, I'm going to go with an informal email. Hey, what's up? Want to grab lunch later? It's a little bit bare bones, right? So I'm going to do more formal, a little bit longer, and I want it in plain text. So rewrite. Hi, how are you doing? Would you like to get lunch together later today? Very, much more polite than my hey yo, want to grab lunch, right? So there are a few more that I want to show you, and we want to go to the big party at the end. But the rewriter, very similar. Rewrite your text and whatever options you have. All of these APIs have 2 formats: the one shot or the streaming of chunks if you want token by token aspects. Let's do proofreader very quickly. Here together, we're going to put a bad sentence. She don't like bad English, going to the park on Wednesday, bad spelling, because bad spelling again, Grammarly is protesting given, but I don't need Grammarly anymore because I have proofread now. So I can click on proofread and look at this. Not only it gives me all of the issues, it will give me that which ones are the right ones, right? So it can teach me quite a bit. Don't is doesn't. Wednesday, it's a spell Wednesdays and it has a capital letter. I want, because with the AU. It, it is, right? So I get all of these corrections one by one directly with this model on the browser. And once more, this can go fully offline at any point in time. It is, once more, remarkable. It's pretty impressive. Now, let's go for the kind of big last one, which is the language model. And it's, I want everything, right? I want the entire Gemini Nano experience in a multimodal input. And this is the demo that, of course, I have worked the most to give you. So let's say that I want to speak, and I'm going to go back to my network just to one more recall how impressive this is. I'm going to put offline. I'm disconnected from the internet. I have nothing in this computer. There is no connection for this window. So let's go to etiquette. What's a polite way to greet someone in Japanese? Sen. Konnichiwa is the most common and versatile polite greeting in Japanese. Pronunciation, konnichiwa, meaning it literally translates to ask for today, but essentially means hello or good afternoon. When to use? Use it from around late morning to evening. Bonus tip, a slight bow accompanies konnichiwa to show respect. And again, it's quite amazing. I don't know, how do you say I love it in Korean? This guy, 22 gigabytes, it speaks several languages really well, actually. So now it goes, and because I told them in the context, and you will see this on my Go when I share with you the GitHub repo for this, he's becoming, right, like a language teacher, right? This agent is a language teacher. So it will give me not only the spelling in Korean, it will give me how it sounds, and it will express word by word whatever is on that thing. This model, though, is multi-model. So I can come and tell them, oh, this is a hanbok, which is this Korean traditional dress, right, for both men and female. So what is this typical Korean outfit, and how do I pronounce it? I am not telling anything, right? It has to look on the image. So I'm going to upload this image, again, locally, right? I'm offline once more, and look at this. It knows what it is. The outfits in the image are called hanbok. They are traditional Korean clothing. For the man is gwanbok, which was worn by officials during the Joseon dynasty. It's quite elaborate and formal. For the woman, she's wearing dalchikima, and it explains you a bunch of different things out of that. As a good language professor will tell you, will give you context, right, as they go. It is absolutely nuts. How do you say, where is the bathroom in Spanish? Sen. The most common way to say where is it? It is insane, right? This is a language model running directly locally without configuration, without me fighting the GPU or the CPU, caring about the model safety. It's all sandbox, it's all offline whenever I have that model already with me. So a bunch of toys, as you can see in here. I'm gonna stop for a second. I'm gonna go to the last screen just to tell you what this demo is, and of course going to that piece of the Q&A. But I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here in a second so I can go back to your faces. Sorry, because as always, I am a Spaniard. I am designed to speak long, and I'm really bad at summaries. I need an AI for that, so I always go a little bit longer than I should. But I hope that you found this interesting, that you found the discussion and the need for small models fascinating, or as fascinating as I find it myself. And hopefully I gave you an excuse to go right now to this address that I'm going to be sharing with you. This is Digital Mishaps, my domain. So you can go in here, make sure to activate the right flags, and I'm going to copy paste the flags for you as well on the chat. Go download these models. It will take a little bit, right? Make sure that you are not paying for your data, that you have a flat fee, or you are in a public connection or something. But go here, activate these flags on your Chrome, and have some fun, because these models are quite impressive. So with this said, I'm gonna finally shut up. I will be answering any questions that you may have. I know that there are already some in there, so let's take them right now, pretty easy, if that's okay. I will be taking those first questions that I didn't answer before, and after that we can take more questions live as well. So I stop at Terence. What is the first step that I should take if I want to get into machine learning, assuming that I am a third-year student in university? Also, if I may ask, is the job market for tech IT computer science flooded? Are the students currently doing computer science in university cooked? Are there still jobs? Okay, so I think this is an incredible and very logical fear, right, at this moment. And I'm going to start with the end of the question instead of the beginning. I am a mentor in something called the Google Summer of Code. Google Summer of Code is an open source program by Google that takes students and hires students in open source organization for them to complete open source projects in these organizations. And this year, it was remarkable to see how every single student that I was mentoring, of course, they were using AI to complete these processes, because if you have a tool, right, you are not expected to not use the tools that come into a new field. And what happened in here is that some of these students were using AI really well, some didn't. And whenever they were not using AI really well, they were creating code that they didn't understand. They were creating code that was working but was not efficient because they didn't know, one, which questions to ask, and second, they didn't have the critical thought or the critical kind of line of thinking of, do I understand this? Can I maintain this code after years, weeks, or months after I have written it? So the reality is that the role of the developer is going to change, right? I don't believe that we are going to be writing every single line of code anymore like we used to. However, I believe that the critical thinking of a brain, deciding what is the next prompt, deciding if this code is good enough to come in here, and there's going to be models, specific models that kind of review models in the end, right? But the creative intention, the kind of critical thinking and review of that code, almost the product management of these agents, it, I believe, will be human for still many, many years to come. So I would say several things. And if you are right now at university, do not avoid these models. Do not try to avoid these models. Do not try to, and honestly, and not be very untrust, be very untrusting of universities or teachers that will tell you, no, you shouldn't use AI. You should learn how to use AI, but you should do it properly. And properly means be critical thinking, evaluating what is generated, make sure that you understand it, make sure that you can maintain it, and make sure that you are asking the right questions. And the only way to ask the right questions is asking the wrong ones for a very long time as you get used to them. So I would say, be the best that you can be at using these models. That's what you do in university right now. Be the best at understanding what they produce. Be the best at understanding what are they good at making and what are they bad at. Because the reality is, when the time comes for you to find a job, and don't worry, there are still plenty of jobs for good engineers. And the reality is that what I'm going to be hiring for my next startup is an engineer with proper critical thinking skills that is going to be able to tell me which AIs to use for what, and I'm going to be able to trust that engineer to ask the right questions and then evaluate that code properly, so we don't generate a security issue, so we don't generate a privacy issue, so we don't generate an application that is subpar because we trusted the wrong model. So be the engineer I want to hire. Be an engineer that puts critical thinking first, but do not be the engineer that goes all in AI and suddenly doesn't want to learn anything because AI will do everything. That is not the case. But also, don't be the engineer that is, no, I'm a purist, I'm an artisan of code. I am not going to touch any AI models, and I'm going to only deliver code in the Zen, clean way. I don't want that engineer either. Be the engineer with critical thinking. That's the one that will get the job. More questions here. What about predictors? If you can expand a little bit on what about predictors, what do you mean with predictors? Probably this was in context while I was speaking, and now without the context makes little sense. So if you want to tell me more about predictors, Dino, I'm happy to answer more. And in the meantime, if anyone has any other questions, either on the chat directly via Q&A, or if you want, what project are you mentoring? It's a very cool project. It's called the Liquid Galaxy. It is this Maps plus AI project. It's liquidgalaxy.eu. It is this massive set of 7 screens that you can load Google Maps and Google Earth on, and you can navigate simulations both through AI and through the Maps API. It is quite cool. And every year we have, this year I believe we have 14 students that created projects for it, and I was mentoring 2 of them. It is always exciting. So if you are a student, definitely look at GSOC, Google Summer of Code, if you don't know this project. But it is, yeah, I wish I wasn't a student again just to be a Google Summer of Code student. It's really cool. They do really cool projects. It's really fun. It's really fun. And yeah, they don't let me do projects, but they let me mentoring them, so it's second best. But the best thing that you can do in Google Summer of Code is for sure be the one doing the project. The mentoring is the second most fun thing, but the first one is it's on you. It's on you. Any other questions? Any other things?
Okay, I see something. Okay, so there are still jobs in AI. It can't be flooded. That's the question.
So I think we are gonna see, right, kind of a flooding of bad jobs on AI for a little bit. We're gonna see 2 trends. We're gonna see people firing too early. We're gonna see companies that get excited with the early capabilities of some of these models, and they're going to try to replace humans too early. And then, believe me, they're going to have to rehire some humans as they go, right? As part of that. But also, we're going to see the opposite, right? We're going to see a lot of companies with a lot of legacy processes, legacy code, legacy tech that are going to be very quickly left behind and disappear unless they hire the right engineering mind in order to apply AI to whatever use case or whatever models they have in that. So I believe the next 15 to 20 years, we are going to experience everything needs AI type of boom, right? And in order for that to happen, this is not something that is going to be accessible to every single user because these users don't know what to ask yet. And the models are not good enough for them to produce quality results, right, from a tech perspective. And yes, this is going to improve. But in the meantime, there is, again, 15 to 25 years, I think, of everything is going to have to change to AI. And good engineers that understand the models, understand the limitations, understand how to use these models are going to be the ones either killing or saving companies. If you are an engineer that refuses to use AI, you're going to go down with your company. If you are an engineer that knows how to use AI, I believe you're going to be hired by many companies, most of them non-tech companies, but that are tech adjacent, right? They require tech to operate. They are going to need to introduce AI. And I think there is plenty of opportunities on making that happen. Because once more, right, I always have a lot of fun when I see some results of vibe coding, right? Is, oh, I don't know how to code, but now I can code. And it's true, you can code, but you can code poorly. And the reason why you can code poorly is because you have no software engineering fundamentals. So you are unable to ask the right questions, and you are unable to understand why some of the code that you are given back doesn't work, or some of the code works poorly or has a flaw that will end up in a bug or will end up in a security issue for you, right? So the reality is, yes, anyone can code, comma, poorly right now. But if you want to code at a high level with an AI, you still require software engineering principles. You still require critical thinking. And I think that's what you train for. That's the job you get.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, I also want to share this link in chat. While we were planning this session, Victor, I found this hackathon on DevPost, and this hackathon is about Google Chrome built-in AI challenge. And I think after today's
I
session,
cannot participate in this hackathon because I'm a Google developer expert, but you can.
right.
$70,000 in prizes. I'm super happy that you mentioned it because I wanted to mention it and I forgot. So I'm so happy that you mentioned it. Go participate on this. Absolutely. You're 100% right.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think this is exciting. I found it and I'm super excited about it. I'm planning to form a team and participate in it. I hope it happens. But yeah, what we can do next is while we are here, we can take one more question. You can unmute yourselves or you can type in the chat. If not, then I can move forward with other exciting things. But yeah, this has been amazing so far.
I'm very happy. It's the first time that I give this conference anywhere, and it's the first time that I show this demo to anyone. So I hope that you liked it and that it was complete and interesting enough. But this shows you, right? This literally was not working 3 months ago. So this is brand new, and it's quite exciting, and it's only going to get better. So I would say be the very first one to dominate this. It's going to be it's going to be very fun, I have to say.
Absolutely. So we'll just move forward and thank you, Victor, for such a fantastic session and answering all the questions. It's very impressive, the capabilities now we can see with AI in browser, and the use case that you started with, how your dad is handling. I think I can pretty much relate to it. So this session has really showed us how accessible and powerful AI has become right inside the browser. And we truly appreciate the time and expertise you have shared with our community today. And with that,
it was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, I hope to be able to come back, in a few months and kind of update you on what the browser can do.
Absolutely. That would be fantastic. And as a thank you for everybody joining today, we are giving away three $15 Amazon vouchers. To be eligible for this, please complete the post-event survey. You might have actually gotten emails by now. If not, please wait till the end of the session, 6:30, and you'll get them. The link will be in the email, so please go through it, and everybody who submits the feedback will be entered into the raffle, and winners will be notified by email. We request you to complete it by tonight, so that we can focus on different tasks, for the upcoming sessions, and we would be informing you by Sunday. Okay. So as much as your feedback, your feedback is incredibly valuable, and it helps us even keep these events, plan these events better, organize them better, and of course, we want to know what kind of topics do you want to learn with us. So please do put the feedback, stay connected with us. You can join us on Discord. We also have a LinkedIn channel. I'll paste that in the chat in a moment. And we would love to see you there. You can introduce yourselves in general channel. You can share your LinkedIns. You can collaborate with others. And that's pretty much it about the Discord. You can also see some discussions about machine learning research, reading and writing papers, but that's already done. But if you're still interested in recorded videos, we can share them there as well in Discord with you. Now, the next section is again going to be super exciting, and this is the QR code for that. But if you registered for this one, you would get an email for the next session as well, as part of the email campaign that we have. And this is just the start of DevFest 2025. We are super excited. We kicked it virtually. Today was the first day. It was fantastic, and we have multiple more sessions coming up. As of now, we planned 7 sessions, but we have interest pouring in from different experts, and it's been challenging really to pick and filter out which session should go as part of this DevFest to you, because every session, every expert brings in is amazing, and it's just us, our team is kind of, we are all volunteers, so it's just our availability. But any of you, if you have time and you would want to volunteer with us and be a moderator for these events, please do reach out to us, and that way we can accommodate more sessions as part of DevFest, virtual DevFest. So with that, on behalf of GDG Surrey, I would like to thank Victor. I would like to thank everybody else who joined today.